Hey, you! You're finally awake.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. The Game Boy may have been small, but it delivered some of the best gaming experiences of the 90s. From epic adventures to addictive puzzles, this handheld proved that portable gaming could rival any console. So in this video I'm going to be asking the question, what is the best Game Boy game of all time? Now as always, I'm just going to be giving some of my own opinions and then obviously what I think is the best one, but I want to hear from you guys about what you think is the best Game Boy game of all time, because that's how we make this video grow. If you do like this content, please hit that like and subscribe button and hit the hype button if you listen to on mobile. Retro Wars is also a weekly podcast, and this time we're looking at Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, and we've also got a $1 a month Patreon and the link is in the description below. As I said, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your favourite Game Boy game of all time is. Right, let's get into it, shall we? What is the best Game Boy game of all time? TMNT Fall of the Foot Clan. Okay, this is for me, alright, I'll make this very clear. This is for me. Now, this is one of the earliest TMNT titles for the handheld consoles, developed by Konami. It brought the Turtles' adventure to the portable format, allowing fans to battle Shredder and forces on the go. Shredder has once again unleashed his Foot Clan upon New York City, and it's up to Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael to fight through waves of enemies to save the city. The gameplay is a side-scrolling beat-em-up adapted for the Game Boy limitations. Players choose one of the turtles, though like many early handheld titles, the characters don't really differ in abilities. Each turtle has the same movement and attack patterns, with only their signature weapons visually distinguishing them. The game focuses on action-heavy combat, requiring players to punch, kick, and use the weapons to defeat enemies while progressing through linear levels. There are 6 main stages, each with their own unique theme. Players travel through the city streets, sewers, rooftops, and eventually Shredder's fortress, the Technodrome. While the Game Boy's monochrome screen limits visual flair, the game makes good use of sprite size and animation, giving enemies recognizable designs and making the turtles themselves feel distinct. Boss fights appear at the end of each stage, and you just need to practice and kick their ass. The controls are simple and responsive, essential for a portable beat-em-up. Players must balance attacking with dodging enemy strikes, and the game introduces limited power-ups like health restoration and temporary weapon enhancements to manage the challenge. Despite the Game Boy's technical limitation, the game succeeds in creating a fast-paced, engaging experience. It's damn awesome. The music and sound effects are catchy and upbeat, the hallmark of Konami's titles. The soundtrack effectively captures the cartoonish, energetic vibe of the TMNT universe, even with the constraints of the 8-bit handheld audio. I will really argue this, the opening level is one of the best in all of gaming. Like, it's so good to listen to on a Game Boy, they've got the soundtrack perfect. Now in terms of difficulty, the game is quite challenging. The levels are densely populated with enemies, and hazards like pits or projectiles require precise timing to navigate. At some points you really have to sit there and practice, because eventually once you know when everything's coming up it's quite manageable, but at the start it's like, oh my god, everything is coming at you. The reception at release was positive, with the reviewers praising its strong adaptation of the TMNT franchise on the handheld consoles. Fans loved the fact they could take it on the go. Now ultimately it doesn't match the depth of console beat-em-ups, but it remains a solid nostalgic title for the handheld library. It's remembered as being one of the first steps in bringing TMNT games to portable systems, introducing many players to handheld beat-em-ups, and setting the stage for sequels like TMNT 2 Back from the Sewers. Its combination of recognisable characters, solid gameplay, and its portability allows me to kill Donatello straight away and then enjoy the rest of the game. Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. For me, this was the proper Mario game they've been waiting for. Like, I don't like Super Mario Land. Sorry, I just really don't. While its predecessor felt more an experimental take on Mario because it was crap, it was short, quirky with unusual enemies, which is terrible. This sequel embraced the traditional formula established on the NES, while it's introducing bold new elements that helped it stand out as one of the handheld's most beloved games. Now the story is simple, but yet notable for adding a major character to Mario's universe. Whilst Mario was off during the events of Super Mario Land, a greedy rival named Wario took control of Mario's castle. Can we just sit there and go, Mario has a castle? Don't act like you're one of us, Mario, with your castle. Now, to reclaim it, Mario must gather 6 magical coins hidden across different theme zones. This marked the very first appearance of Wario, who would go off to become a major character in his own right, and might appear on this list. From a gameplay standpoint, Super Mario Land 2 felt much closer to Mario 3, or Super Mario World than its predecessor. The levels are larger, more detailed, and packed with secrets. Players can explore in a non-linear fashion thanks to the world map, choosing which of the theme zones like Pumpkin Zone, Space Zone or Tree Zone to tackle first. This freedom was impressive for a handheld title in '92 and gave the game a sense of adventure beyond the typical left-to-right platformer. Each of the zones had their own distinct personality and making the game feel varied and fresh. Like Pumpkin Zone leads into the horror motifs filled with ghosts and witches, while Macro Zone makes Mario tiny compared to oversized enemies and objects, giving the levels a creative twist. Space Zone even had low gravity physics, which was really cool, so Mario is jumping and flying around everywhere. There were power-ups in this game which also expanded Mario's arsenal. The Super Mushroom and Fire Flower of course were there, but the new bunny ears were amazing, which allowed Mario to glide slowly through the level, really just cheese most of the game. Absolutely cheese it. This item sadly never appeared in later mainstream Mario titles. I think I want this item back. Visually, Mario 2 was a huge step up from the first game. Character sprites were much more larger and detailed, the environments were more varied, and the overall style felt much closer to Mario's console adventures. On the Game Boy's small screen, the game gave a bold, polished presentation that helped cement its standout release. Reception when it came out was very positive. Critics and players praised it as being one of the best Game Boy titles at the time, combining accessibility with depth. Its legacy is also significant because it introduced Wario, who became one of Nintendo's biggest anti-heroes. To this day, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins is remembered not just a highlight of the Game Boy library, but also a pivotal entry in the Mario franchise. Speaking of Wario, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. Now this was a bit of a big deal, because while it carries the Super Mario Land name, it represented a major shift in the franchise, introducing players to a brand new protagonist, Wario. This marked the beginning of Wario's own series, giving players a fresh perspective on platforming with a character who was equally parts greedy, mischievous, and fun to control. The story is straightforward and effective. Wario, an anti-hero and the rival of Mario, seeks to steal the Super Diamond from Mario's castle. Again, Mario's castle. Unlike traditional Mario games where the goal is to rescue someone or defeat Bowser, Wario's motivation is purely selfish. He wants treasure. Good on him. This premise sets the tone for the game, emphasizing exploration, collection, and destruction rather than the classic Save the Princess narrative. The gameplay marked evolution from its predecessor. While the original Super Mario Land games focused on linear platforming, Wario Land emphasizes exploration, secret areas, and treasure hunting. Players can perform new abilities such as shoulder bashes, ground pounds, and mid-air flips, which allow Wario to break blocks, defeat enemies in unique ways, and access hidden areas. Is he Mario? No, he's not. This approach added a layer of strategy and replayability that made the game really stand out. Now, like always, the game is divided into multiple themed worlds, including castles, forests, and mechanical zones. But each world has its own secret treasures and alternative routes, encouraging players to explore rather than just simply rushing through to the end of the stage. Wario has his own set of power-ups, such as the bull horns, which are able to just destroy everything, and also the dragon hat, which I absolutely love because he can just breathe fire. Seriously, that's one of the best power-ups ever. Visually, this game was a high point for the original Game Boy. The character sprites were huge in this game, but they really emphasized Wario. They made sure he was really expressive, his character features, his character animations, and I think that's what made him help him stand out. The game's difficulty itself is quite moderate, providing a challenge without being punishing. The enemies and obstacles do require that usual timing and stuff, but the main thing here is finding the hidden treasures in those multiple paths, because you can complete the game, but you're not going to get a good score at the end. And that's what's different compared to most Mario games. Here, you want to try and get the highest score and make the most money, so Wario can get the best place to live in. The reception was very positive. Critics praised its fresh approach to Mario formula, and the introduction of Wario as a charismatic protagonist and the game's engaging level designs. Fans appreciated the humour, inventive mechanics, and replay value, cementing Wario Land as one of the best titles. In terms of legacy, this game did more than just continue the Super Mario Land series. It essentially launched Wario's own series in Wario Land 2, the WarioWare series, and everyone loves a Wario game now, so yeah, job done. Final Fantasy Adventure. Now, this little game, released in 1991, was actually not a Final Fantasy game. It was actually what was going to be called the Mana series. Known in Japan as Seiken Dendetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden, it combined elements of action, exploration, and RPG mechanics in a handheld format, establishing a blueprint for future RPGs on a portable system. Now, the story is surprisingly deep for a handheld game. Players control a young hero tasked with stopping the evil Dark Lord and his minions from using a powerful tree of mana to dominate the world. Along the way, the hero meets allies, including a princess named Elena, and confronts a variety of bosses and enemy forces. The narrative blends high-stakes adventure with classic fantasy themes, giving players a strong sense of purpose as they progress through the game's expansive world. Gameplay is a hybrid of action and RPG elements, and has that top-down overworld, so you can definitely look at Legend of Zelda and go, yeah, I can see where they've got this from. The game plays like Zelda, in the sense of combat occurs directly on the screen, requiring players to dodge attacks and swing weapons, and strategically use magic and items. The difference here being an action RPG is that you gain levels and experience as you go through the game. The game structure encourages that exploration and experimentation. Players must solve environmental puzzles, collect key items, and interact with NPCs to advance the stories. Dungeons are often multi-layered, containing hidden paths, secret treasures, and challenging enemies, which adds depth and replayability. The game introduced various weapons, similar to Zelda, but they were often used to beat different enemies. So for example, a sword's not going to beat this enemy, so you need to go to like your chain swinging flail ball, I can't think what it is, to be able to kill that enemy. It was a cool idea. The problem was that you had to keep going into the menu every time to switch your weapons, which was a bit of a pain in the arse. The game looks great for the Game Boy, and despite that monochrome palette, the game used the sprite design well, and it basically is kind of Zelda-esque, and it's really hard not to think Zelda when playing this game. The game's difficulty is quite challenging, and I'd say it's more difficult than Zelda, and it's hard to not make that comparison. Enemies can be quite tough as well, so there's going to have to be some grinding involved, again, which is different compared to Zelda, because in reality in that one you can just walk up and bash something. Here, they're more likely to absolutely mess you up, especially some of the bosses, so yeah, you might have to grind to be able to just defeat everything in one hit. Reception was really positive. Critics praised the game for its engaging combat system, expansive world, and strong story. And although it wasn't a Final Fantasy game, because it was just us in the West just not knowing what the hell was going on, we liked it all the same. In terms of legacy, Final Fantasy Adventure is historically significant at the start of the Mana franchise, influencing future action RPGs on both handheld and console systems. Its combination of exploration, real-time combat, and RPG mechanics paved the way for games like Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana, and it remains a beloved retro experience for fans of the genre. Pokémon Yellow. Now, Pokémon Yellow, the Pikachu edition, is a landmark title in Pokémon franchise. Released for the Game Boy in 1998 in Japan and 1999 internationally, building on the massive success of Red and Blue, Yellow sought to move more closely to the anime, creating a unique blend of RPG mechanics, but that was also directly influenced by that TV series. Now, the story follows a familiar structure as Red and Blue, but this time you are Ash, and you want to become a Pokémon champion. But what sets Yellow really apart is the starring role of Pikachu, who serves as the player's star Pokémon. Unlike previous games, Pikachu follows the player around on screen, mimicking the relationship between Ash and Pikachu in the anime. And the fact he even talked to him, and he had the little noise, which was really cool. Gameplay was pretty much the same as Red and Blue, featuring exploration, turn-based battles, and Pokémon collection. Again, the difference was they just tried to make it more anime-esque. So for example, you could get all the 3 starters, but you had to get them in different ways, because in the original Red and Blue, you only got a choice of one of them, but here they tried to emphasize what happened in the anime. So for example, in the original game, you could only pick one of the 3 starters, Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, but here the anime actually gives you all 3 if you go through little quests, because that's what happened in the series. Also the fact that Jessie, James, and Meowth are also in the game, although Meowth doesn't talk, but you get to fight the bugger. The fact that when you go into different areas, there were different Pokemon, different locations, and also some of the gym leaders had different Pokemon. For example, Lieutenant Surge now just only has a Raichu, where that's not what he had in the original because he had a Voltorb, a Pikachu, and a Raichu. Whereas Gary has an Eevee, because that was a bit different. I didn't mind the setup of this, but I still prefer the original. Also the fact the game had some colour, which I have to say was pretty cool. Like, the reception was cool, the fact that you could have a Pikachu and a surfing Pikachu at that point. It's a difficult one really, because trying to compare it to the original one is hard. I still prefer the original Red and Blue, but there'll be some of you out there who preferred Pokémon Yellow, and that's fine. Maybe I'm a purist, I don't know. Either way, I still played this game to death, and I still have it. I still have my Red, Blue, and Yellow copies here in Australia. I brought them with me from England, and they're framed. They're a bit faded, but they're still here. Like, fans enjoying seeing the fact that Pikachu is following you around. Also, you can't evolve him. He won't evolve. You try and give him a Thunderstone, he basically tells you to fuck off. You can see it in his face, he doesn't like it. Like, in terms of legacy though, Pokemon Yellow was kind of the start of where they did the middle game, or the extra game. So for Gold and Silver, they had Crystal. For Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, they had Emerald. And for Diamond and Pearl, they had Platinum. although that was the end of it. We didn't get any more after that. We got Pokemon Black and White 2, people wanted Pokemon Z, whatever you want to call it, but it was the start of basically Nintendo trying to get more money out of us. The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. Yeah, I didn't put this as my number one. I know some of you are going to cry at that one, and that's fine, because I understand. This is a really good game. Come on, we all know Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is one of my favourite Zeldas of all time, and you could probably work out what my favourite's going to be. And if it was going to be between that other one and this one, these two are going to be battling left, right, centre. But let's just go through this game, shall we? Now, we all know about Legend of Zelda. We all know how important it is to Nintendo and gaming in general. Link washes ashore on Koholint Island after a storm at sea, only to discover that the island is controlled by a mysterious entity known as the Windfish. To escape the island, Link must awaken the Windfish by collecting 8 magical instruments hidden in dungeons across the island. Now normally, you're after Princess Zelda. That's not happening this time. It combines that top-down perspective action style seen in Link to a Past. It is the same Link, we should make that very clear. This is the same Link from A Link to a Past. Players explore towns, forests, caves and dungeons, solving puzzles, defeating enemies, and acquiring items that enhance their abilities. Classic Zelda mechanics like boomerangs, bombs and the hookshot are present, while new elements such as the Roc's Feather allow jumping. And I love the Roc's Feather, it's such a cool item. The game features a non-linear approach to exploration. While players must complete dungeons to progress in a certain way, they're able to walk around as much as they can with the items they have available to them. Like, visually, this game is amazing. I think this game is a fantastic looking Game Boy game, and yes, we know it got the DX edition for the Game Boy Color, and eventually a remake for the Nintendo Switch. The original game is so cool. The story itself, whilst it is great, it becomes extremely dark later on, and I'm not going to spoil that here, but my god, if you want a little bit more, I did a big retrospective of this in the early days of the YouTube channel, so go back and have a look. I thought the game was really well balanced, like each area managed to build your skills up, while later dungeons and boss fights require clever use of the items that you've been gaining through your adventure. Now, unlike other early handheld titles, Link's Awakening really avoids excessive repetition, which I think is really cool, which basically means you have to use experimentation and careful observation to progress through the game. Reception at release was overwhelmingly positive, as you'd imagine. Critics praised its scope, engaging gameplay, and successful translation of the Zelda experience to the handheld platform. Fans were charmed by the story's dreamlike qualities, memorable characters, and the depth of exploration. Its success demonstrated that portable systems could host complex, full-length adventure games rather than just simple minigames. Like, in terms of this legacy, Link's Awakening, in my opinion, is considered one of the best Zelda games of all time. Like, I'm putting it in my top 5. Other people may not, they may have it a bit lower, but I definitely think it's top 5, if not top 3. Maybe because I have that nostalgia for it, because it was one of the first Zelda games, and I think it was. I always debate, was it my first Zelda game? Was it this or Ocarina of Time? I'm never going to know. I think it was Link's Awakening. It's just too early for my little childhood brain to work out, but I'm sure I played this before I played the N64 version, because that's why I got so hyped for the N64. I don't know, I wish I could go back in time and just tell my childhood self, oi, these are amazing games, play them all. Now, before I reveal what I think is the best Game Boy game, and you can probably work that out, if you're going to give me notable mentions to make it like a 10, I'd probably say Tetris, Kirby's Dream Land, and Metroid 2, Return of Samus. But as I said, these are just my thoughts, not necessarily the top 10, but I want to hear from you guys what you think is the best game. So, the obvious what I think the best Game Boy game of all time is Pokémon Red and Blue. Come on, we all know it was going to be that for me. Developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo, these games launched the Pokémon phenomenon, combining role-playing mechanics with creature collection, strategic battles, and a sense of adventure that captured the imagination of millions. You assume the role of a young Pokémon trainer from Pallet Town with the mission to become the Pokémon champion. Along the way, you've got to capture, train, and battle with Pokémon, challenge 8 gym leaders, thwart the plans of the villainous Team Rocket, and complete the Pokédex, which is about 151 Pokémon, all the age of 10 years old. Child abuse? I think so. The idea of capturing Pokémon had that collection element, encouraging players to seek out different species and fill that Pokédex. Basically, gotta catch them all. The fact it also had 2 different versions of Red and Blue, green if you're in Japan, added a layer of social connectivity. Each version had exclusive Pokémon, forcing players to trade with friends to complete the Pokédex. This mechanic in itself promoted cooperative gameplay, creating a unique blend of solo adventure and multiplayer interaction that was groundbreaking for the time. You also got to hint for legendary Pokémon like Mewtwo, Articuno, Zapdos and Moltres, giving players excited targets to hunt and increasing replayability. The fact that imagine you killed your Articuno and saved the game. Wah, wah. And then when you got Mewtwo, you basically said he's banned from battles because he's far too strong. I suppose that's why you got him at the end of the game. Like, I love Pokemon. It gave me one of those funny feelings in my tum-tum when I even read the instruction manual for this game, like I knew it was something different. I loved when I caught my first Pikachu and I was watching the anime that day. Me and my Squirtle went on many different adventures. That sounds horrific when you clip it like that. I feel like I'm going to get arrested saying something like that, but I did. Me and my Squirtle. I just had such a great feeling as an 11-year-old kid playing this game. And the fact that when I finished the game I could basically train my own Pokemon and go battle friends was incredible. I can do Pokemon Red and Blue now in my sleep. I've played this game so many times, it's insane. But back then, it just felt like this whole new world. But in reality, it wasn't until I played later games that I realised how truly in-depth this game was when it came to all the maths and the strategy and stuff like that. And I'll say this now, when it came to Black and White, I became one of the best in the world. There's no way to prove that, you just have to trust me that I was number 2 in the UK when it came to online battles. So yeah, I was one of the best in the world. Shame I didn't use that to actually become one of the best in the world. Either way. Reception for this game was extraordinary. Critics praised the game for its addictive gameplay, social trading mechanics, and the depth, while fans embraced the franchise, leading to unprecedented sales of the Game Boy. The game not only introduced its bestsellers, but also introduced it as the largest multimedia franchise in history, including trading shows, TV shows, movies, and merchandise. In terms of legacy, it's monumental. They defined portable RPG game design, popularized creature collection mechanics, and demonstrated the power of social gameplay through trading and battling. Even decades later, they remain culturally and historically significant, celebrated as timeless classics that shaped an entire generation of gamers, and launched a franchise that continues to thrive worldwide today. And that's it, my thoughts of what is the best Game Boy game of all time. But as always, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is the best Game Boy game of all time? Until then, I'll see you all again in a few days from another video. My name's been Danny. Follow your dreams.